With all the angst over supposedly biased news, there's one place Americans can get mountains of raw, unfiltered information about how government works: the Cable Satellite Public Affairs Network. You know it as C-SPAN. It's an independent, private company with no interference from government or sponsors because it doesn't run ads or take public money. I recently caught up with its founder, Brian Lamb, and asked how he dreamed up the novel idea decades ago. How did the idea for C-SPAN come up?
It really originated in my little Midwestern head because, as someone that grew up in Lafayette, Indiana, we didn't have a lot of information then. It just struck me that 3 commercial television networks on 6th Avenue in New York was too much concentration for a lot of reasons in one place as to what the public was being able to see. And it really was a factor of technology that allowed us to create something called C-SPAN.
Mr. Speaker, on this historic day, the House of Representatives opens its proceedings for the first time to televised coverage.
Were you just trying to figure out who might like this idea?
I approached anybody that would listen to me, got a tremendous number of no's.
What did your pitch sound like back then?
I would say, this is a new industry that's looking for programming, and it's an opportunity to add something unique, not take away anything. And Washington is important to the country and the world. Why don't we try to figure out a way to add public affairs programming to cable television? Louisville, Kentucky, you're on C-SPAN, I believe. It was entirely experimental in the beginning. That's the way I sold it in the first place. I said, I don't know if this is going to work. We're sitting in a rather makeshift studio here off the ballroom floor of the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. We started to grow and people got more interested, and we eventually became 3 networks.
Oh, everybody up here is a president of some union, except old Kennedy.
If someone hasn't watched C-SPAN or isn't sure what it's about, what would you tell them it is about?
I'd say you have to be interested in how the government spends your money. $4 trillion comes to this town every year, and most people don't have time to pay attention to it and like things in bursts. But if you want to know the language of government, the process of government, the people that you never see on television who are making a lot of decisions that you don't realize are being made in your behalf, you can come to us and see political events as they happen in their entirety.
This is a repeal and a replace of Obamacare. Make no mistake about it.
I hear from a lot of people today who are discouraged with traditional news. Maybe C-SPAN is really coming into its own, kind of ironically, decades after it started, for those who want that unfiltered information that's so hard to find on the regular channels.
I'm not sure, because we're not making any attempt to capsulize it or to make it easy for people that our numbers are going to go up that high, but we don't know what our numbers are anyway.
Why don't you know the numbers?
It would change the nature of this place. And our business model did not require numbers, and our cable television executives have never asked me how many people watch. If you start looking at this town through numbers, you will not do what we do, and we don't need to be another news network, and others don't want to do what we do because you can't make a lot of money at it. It's just a public service provided by a private business.
Television will change this institution, Mr. Speaker, just as it has changed the executive branch. But the good will far outweigh the bad.
When I watch C-SPAN, I get the feeling that it attempts to be obsessively nonpartisan.
Thank you for calling it nonpartisan instead of bipartisan. That drives me crazy, because there are a lot of people in this country that don't fit into the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, and we've always considered ourselves politically uninvolved. There's never been any interference at all whatsoever from the business. And we're going to stick to that. So your take on what we are is accurate. We are not involved, nonpartisan, and want to stay as neutral as humanly possible.
Without advertising or government money, C-SPAN is funded by a 6 cents per subscriber fee paid by cable and satellite TV. It now has 3 TV channels available to about 100 million homes.